Southampton, New York. Southwick. Which, Springfield, Maine. Anyone else? West Springfield? South Hadley. Do we miss anyone? All right. The reason that's important is we've come here now, I think this is our 6th time. The typical quote-unquote politicians, they don't travel outside of the 495 Beltway, right? Because they essentially want to stay and focus on a finite set of people because they can control the voting process, and they don't really care about working people west of 495, be it Central Mass or be it in Springfield. And these are essentially where the hardworking people of Massachusetts are. It's fundamentally the forgotten people in many ways that those politicians don't care about. But we've been out here, this is our 6th time, and we'll keep coming back here over and over and over again. So I'm really happy to be back here. I think one of the important things we need to recognize in Franklin County, I don't know if you know this fact, we won. Franklin County, we won. It was the only county we won. Why? Because all the 70 to 80% of the towns are hand-counted votes, hand-counted ballots, which means when you hand it to them, a human being looks at it, and a human being says, and I believe 2 people have to verify it. 1 vote for Shiva, 1 vote for Doofus, 1 vote for Shiva, 3 votes for so on, okay? But in Franklin County, we won by 6 points. In every other county where they used the machine hand-counted votes, we lost by 20 points consistently. 60-40, 60-40, 60-40. And as I've mentioned, this guy who wasn't out here, couldn't even get maybe 2 people out, very much like Joe Biden, right?
Right.
Last time we were in Chicopee, 300 people were in that parking lot at 7 p.m. And the people that came to support us, and actually the fiber of our movement, are working people. Everyone here works for a living. Exactly. Everyone has a job. People work very hard. We pay taxes. We believe in the principles of this country. We don't cheat. We don't lie like those guys. And that's who supported this campaign. And that's what scared them so much that they had to go do election fraud. That's what happened. So 60-40, this guy, no campaign signs, no bumper stickers, no real donations, no organization, no support, no volunteers. Never. Can you say that again? Come over here. Come over here and say what you just said. And this is what we keep hearing. What did you say?
I've never heard of him.
How many people heard of this guy? No one even knows his. Come on over here.
What's his name?
Exactly. I was just driving. I was crossing the intersection to come over here in Belmont, and a woman walks by and she goes, "Thumbs up." And I rolled down the window. She goes, "I voted for you." I said, "We're running again. Election fraud took place." And the first thing out of her mouth, she goes, "I'm voting," but she goes, "Publicize it to everyone." And I can't tell you how many people keep saying that. Who was this guy? Never heard of him. He was nowhere there to be found. This is what you find in third world countries where the Chinese Communist Party or the existing, fascist party finds some idiot to run who's basically will be their puppet, right? That's what happened in Massachusetts. No one heard about this guy. Nobody. Nobody heard of him. And that's where you start finding one of the biggest symptoms of the election fraud that we uncovered. So we're not walking away. Michelle said something interesting this morning. She goes, the problem they have is 99% of the candidates that have endured election fraud, they go, "Oh, well, I guess I lost." They go to a serious depression. They make it all about themselves because their goal was not to win for working people. It was about getting a position. You see what I'm saying? So they had the wrong goal in mind. Our goal is to win for working people. That's what this is about, right? It's about us. It's not about an individual like me or someone else. And part of this movement is we're going step by step by step, how much ever time it takes, and we're educating people. And we're educating people on the principles of truth, freedom, and health. That's what we're educating people on. So we poked the bear hard. We stabbed them really hard. By all those people that came out to vote for us, we were headed for a landslide victory. And the only thing that they could do was to cheat, because that's how they've been running all of us. They don't care about the fact that we pay taxes, we work hard, we want the right things. What they've been doing is cheating. Cheating by taking money away from us. They cheat by imposing taxes on us. one rule for us and another rule for them. And that's what this election fraud's about. It's essentially a complete reflection in a very, very profound and direct, in a very real way of what they've been doing to all of us. This is not about me getting cheated. It's about what they've been doing to all of us. And that's why if you get our new cards, Richard, maybe you can break out one of the boxes. You can bring a box up here. So when I was walking across that street, the thing that woman said is, please publicize to everyone you're doing a write-in campaign. I'll vote for you, and that's what I heard. We were at an office, a attorney's office, and 5 random people walked by, and you can hand some of these out. Just give them out to people. And everyone said, we voted for you, we voted for you. This has been the consistent thing. And when I said we're doing a write-in campaign, hand these out, Richard. The first thing that came out of her mouth is, oh my God, I'm gonna vote for you. So why am I telling you that? 2 U.S. senators have won write-in campaigns, 2. Okay, I don't know if you know that. How many people knew that? One was Strom Thurmond many years ago, another was Lisa Murkowski. Forget whether you like them or not. And the way they won it, there were 2 ingredients. One was visibility. They had to have name brand visibility, which we do. We had 14 major billboards. We had radio ads, TV ads, network ads. 90% of people know us. But the second thing was letting people know, hey, we're doing a write-in. So, what was your name? Bruce just put up, the write-in, right? On our bus. Thanks, Bruce. Bruce is an amazing sign maker. What's the name of your sign company? Socho Signs. Bruce went and did that himself. The people in our campaign, we don't have to direct them. They just start doing stuff. Because it's a bottoms-up movement. Because they're working people, right? We go figure out a problem, we solve it. So these cards, if you're getting them, I don't know if you got them. Richard, pass them out over here. No, just give people these cards. Pass these cards. Take one and pass them around. So Richard, I got it this way. You can pass. So we have printed up about 1.5 million of these cards. All right? Think of these as our bullets. This is our ammunition. And remember in the old days when the U.S. Army would go by and drop these flyers? Well, that's what we need to do. It may seem like a very simple thing, but we want each person here who wants to do this, and we need everyone to do this. You can put up about 500 to 1,000 cards an hour, and we have new research clinical data that shows when you put out 1,000 of these cards, you lose 1 pound of fat and you increase a half a pound of muscle. Okay?
It's true.
And we won't charge you. And we won't charge you for the weight loss program. Okay? So it builds muscle, reduces fat. Better than the ketogenic diet. All right? So you put seriously, 1,000 to 1 pound. So every 1,000 cards you'll be doing. So people are running them, and you can put them on, people's cars right there, right? Hand them to people, whatever you want. But we need to get these out in this area. Everyone should know that we're not walking away. We're doing a write-in campaign. The front of the card, if you look at it carefully, says we made the message very simple. 4 lines, write-in, number 1, Dr. Shiva, U.S. Senate, and then at the bottom of it says stop election fraud. The reverse of it, if you turn the card around, it tells people how to do it. How to do it. If you notice, we have a sample of the ballot. It says Senator in Congress. That's what it'll say on the ballot. And it has one thing for lawyer 1 at 1 doofus lane, lawyer 2 at 2 doofus lane. And then it has a right space, and you can put Dr. Shiva. It's got a pen. And by law, it's intent. Okay? And then you have to fill out the ellipse to the right of it. Okay, so we made it really simple. So people who know us will say, oh yeah, he's running a write-in campaign. How do I do it? Again, this is very, very simple. All right? Yes, he agrees. All right. So everyone got this? So This is what needs to be done. So I know all of you took time to come out today. It's a beautiful day, and I appreciate everyone doing that. But we need, so what I have boxes. Each of those boxes has 5,000 cards. So that's 5 pounds loss, right? 2.5 pounds of increase in muscle. Okay, that's what we're looking at right there. So everyone's got to take at least 10,000. If you can, 5 to 10,000. That's what we need minimum. And you hit the parking lot. You just go do them. Dispersion. Okay. We just broadcast. And just go do them for the next 10 days. and we know everyone in this area has gotten it. Angela Chagnon has about more cards if you need them. Is Angie here? Okay, but Angela's right here in Granby, and if everyone wants to know her name, Michelle, and we'll collect everyone's names if you don't have them, so we know who's getting what card, so you have them. Okay, so that's the order. So I wanted to put that up front before I sort of gave some of the key ideas here. So we made this rally really be a Shiva for Senate rally, but to really be for working people. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to distill in the next few minutes what the core here is. If you take away Republican and Democrat for a second, if you take away left and right, if we take away black and white, what we really find is over the last 50 years, working people in this country, which means you're a small business owner, you start your own business from scratch, you're a nurse, you're a mother who takes care of kids, right? Working people have been under, frankly, brutal attack. And they've been being squeezed from both ends of the spectrum. And that issue is not fully addressed in the media. And we, as working people, need to get clear of that politics. Otherwise, it's easy for us to be distracted and manipulated and used. In Massachusetts, there's only one party, let's be honest. There's a uniparty. The Republican and Democratic Party are one. We may be lowercase d Democrats, lowercase Republicans, lowercase unenrolled if you're a working person. We share more in common than the Republican Party establishment of the Massachusetts GOP, whose chairman, by the way, didn't even want a Trump sign on his lawn. He said, get that freaking thing off my lawn. And today he wears a hat because he needs funding from leveraging the president's campaign. Charlie Baker, quote unquote Republican, attacked the president, right? On TV, he said, oh, if you won't step out of office, the election is over. But he wasn't just referring to Trump, he was referring to us because we're the ones who filed the FOIA starting to expose the fraud. So when he got on TV that day, and he said, when an election is over, the people have spoken. Well, he was really saying that about us. And Charlie Baker's a guy who's destroyed any Republican who comes bottoms up. He destroyed Mark Fisher in 2014. They caught the Mass GOP literally shredding an opposition and he was an engineer who was running against Baker in the 2014. They wanted to keep him off the ballot. He was shredding his ballots. Fisher sued the Mass GOP. He won the right to go to court, and then they settled out of court. And they've done this so it's the Republicans who attack other Republicans. This is a fact, because they don't want anyone to perturb the alliance between the Republicans and Democrats. All right? That's what we got to remember. So that's like the first lesson. It's not like I'm a Republican and I'm a Democrat. Remember, President Trump was neither a Republican or a Democrat. He used to make fun of Republicans. I mean, the Democrats use that ad, but it's still true. He was someone who came from a background of recognizing that this country was attacked from China, that this country was basically destroying itself by outsourcing all of its manufacturing, that China was stealing intellectual property, and he knew there was going to be a massive failure in this economy because it was an attack on working people. So the two things he was attempting to do was to bring back manufacturing, and he was trying to stop the stealing of China stealing our intellectual property, which are what really support wealth creation in this country. And for that, the globalists with China retaliated. That's what we're witnessing right now. China is, whether you want to really hear this or not, is colonizing the United States. That's what's going on. And I've studied the history of colonization. First, the colonizer comes to be your friend, right? Look at India. First, the British came saying, hey, we want to just trade with you. Then they got rid of middlemen, and then they became what was called, they started saying, look, let's outsource stuff. So in India, the British outsourced all of Indian manufacturing to Britain, and they cut the thumbs off weavers, for example. In the United States, it was a little bit different. China outsourced manufacturing to China. And then the third phase of it is total occupation by using, it's not direct. The British in India never used, they didn't fully come in there, they used other Indian sellouts, okay? In the United States, that's what they're doing. They're buying politicians, they're buying university professors, and basically you're seeing the colonization of the United States take place. And when you destroy the economy, you can then come buy U.S. assets at a penny on the dollar. That's what's going on. And I think last time I was here in Springfield, Richard, we went to that place in Springfield, right? Yeah, where the Chinese Communist Party or company has been outsourced the right to make trains here in Massachusetts. It's a big facility there, and the Chinese Communist Party's flag flies, almost looked like it was flying above the U.S. flag. So that's what's happening. And you have to understand, it's not like people in China are doing this, it's the American imperialists are doing this. John Boehner, a quote-unquote Republican, is a Chinese lobbyist. He'll wave the flag when it's convenient for him, but fundamentally, they're selling out the working people in this country. That's what's going on. And we need to wake up to that in a very fundamental way. And part of that is to squeeze us, our economy, but to also squeeze our freedom. Because that's how Communist Party, that's how uniparty people work. It's when the government completely colludes with big corporations and they become one. Yes, he's very upset with that, right? He does not like that. Yes. Yeah, he wants that to end. All right. Michelle, there's a puppy over there. So anyway, yeah. So anyway, that's the dynamics that's taking place globally. At least 100 United States companies now have their headquarters in China. Those companies love that slave labor. They don't want to give it up. That's what's going on. And what is China's fundamentals? It's they oppress their own people, consolidate power, consolidate media. Well, what's going on here? Consolidation of power, oppress your people. That's what's going on here. So you have to get the politics clear. And what have we seen in the last 3 months? $6 trillion got printed. 600 billionaires became the wealthiest people, increased their wealth by $2.3 trillion. 39 million Americans lost jobs. 20% of restaurants will never come back again. So we have to get down to brass tacks, what's really going on here. Otherwise, we're going to be distracted by, oh, I support BLM. I don't want to defund the police. Yeah, those are some issues, but they're not the real issue. They're a distraction. So you get all the liberals and the blacks on this side, and over here, if I'm white, I support the police. That's what they're doing. Every election cycle, they create a black-white issue. When the reality is, police and people, black or white, have much more in common than anyone can imagine, because when a revolution has always occurred in any country, the police and the army and the people come together. So this is a way of dividing us. So I wanted to share that with you, that the reason we called it for working people is we need to get all of our politics clear. Otherwise, we're going to get bamboozled in 2020, and we can't afford that. And if you open that hood up and you go a little bit deeper, just to give you some facts, in 1948 to 1971, if you actually look at the growth, like if you were making $20,000 and you were making 50 and you were making 100,000 and you were making 200 and you were making $1 million during 1948 to 71, guess what? The American pie grew for everyone. The pie actually grew. Because why? Because during that period, we had the biggest explosive growth of infrastructure in this country. Roads, bridges, public schools, everything was growing. So whether you were a business person or you were working for someone, your income in every one of those income distributions, is a great report that just came out, an Iran report. So everyone grew by 10, 15, 20%. I forget what the percentage was. You follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. The balloon grew for everyone. But starting in 1971, all of the institutions that we have today, which became corrupt, their corruption started then. The Department of Education gets created, okay? Big pharma, big hospitals, big insurance start creating their lobbies. And you go down every institution, they all started coming together because why? They got greedy. They didn't like the fact that in the the reason we got all those gains in 1948 to 1971, again, if you go 50 years before, was working people like us, we took to the streets. In the late 1800s and the 1900s, the American workers, black and white, flexed their arm. And they said, you know what? You're hurting our families. We need public education. We need nutrition. We need hygiene. We need sanitation. And if you look at that period, it was the powerful forces of people on the streets, bottoms up. And they try to brand that as communist or Marxist. Whenever working people come together, one side of the establishment tries to brand that as those communists. No, the American working people have been organizing long before Russia or China ever did it. Go back to the 1800s. May 1st, May Day started here in America in the late 1800s when American workers organized. And 3 of them were shot and hanged. Happened here. And then that was called May Day, and then it was branded as a communist holiday, but it wasn't. So the establishment has been on an attack of the American working people organizing in a fundamental way. So during 48 to 71, all of that hard work helped all of us grow. But starting in 1971, the elites were so jealous and so upset that they had to build infrastructure for us, that they had to give us those gains. So they went on a rampage. They consolidated left and right. So starting in 1971, what happens to our incomes? And again, you look at every income distribution, only the top 10%, their incomes grew. The other 90% of us, our incomes went down, which means the pie grew for them. So it's like 2 apple pies. One big apple pie for them, and we got crumbs. The average worker today who earns $50,000 median income should be making $120,000. That $70,000 differential has been from the degradation of that pie, smaller and smaller for us, bigger and bigger for them. Yep.
Wouldn't you say that had to do with the fact that in 71 Nixon took us off the dollar?
Yes. So you bring up a good point. So if you go one level deeper, what happened was the elites did 2 things. One is we had something called the gold standard, and in 1971 Nixon moved to the petrodollar standard. And it was an opportunity that compelled with the fact that these guys never wanted to give us those rights. So both things occurred. So it was a convergence of events that took place. But fundamentally it was an attack on you and you and you and you, all of us. They wanted to go back to consolidation of power. Does this make sense?
Yes.
So, and we have to all get this clear. And both parties have been doing this against us. And I'll give you a very, very powerful example of this in one example. So they do horse trading. These guys are lawyers. You know, it's like trying to get a criminal off crime. Okay, I'll give you this, you give me that. So go back to 2012 when Obamacare took place. How did Obama get this through? How did he get it through? What was Obamacare, first of all? Obamacare was bloated healthcare, and it created no competition, and it created a monopoly for 3 big institutions: big insurance, big hospitals, and big pharmaceuticals. That's what it did. You had to buy insurance, forced to buy insurance, and what it did was enable a 5-cent aspirin to be sold for $50 in the emergency room. You talk to friends of mine who are surgeons. You know, the procedure is only like $2,000. When they actually get the bill, it's $200,000. It allowed them to inflate costs with a lot of middlemen. So Obamacare, remember, think about it this way: we're the peasants, and there's really 2 warring kingdoms. Kingdom 1 and Kingdom 2, WWF of wrestling. And they want us to sit here like fools and support one or the other. Okay? That's what they want us to do. But they both have their interests, and it's not our interests. So Obamacare was backed by big pharma, big insurance, and big hospitals. And they're very good at branding because they have the best people from Madison Avenue. They called it the Affordable Care Act. Right? That's what they did. Now, how did Obamacare get through? It couldn't have gotten through without Republican support, right? They needed the votes. In the Obamacare Act, this is a bill, there is another big provision there for estate planning. Now, what's that doing there? Estate planning. Increasing the exemption tax for wealthy people to transfer wealth to their kids. Let me explain that. So super wealthy people, they want to, like Bill Gates, they want to transfer wealth to his kids. Now, the simple way of doing it is through what's called the death tax exemption. So if I have $50 million and I have, let's say, 5 bratty kids, okay, I could pass on to each one of them $3 million. That was the old death tax exemption, $3 million, without any tax consequences. So each of those kids, yep.
Wouldn't you say that's, I'm not for the death tax because I think it's double taxation.
Right.
So they're taking income and their wealth that they generated after the government, the state and federal government
Right.
taxed it, and now they should be allowed to give it.
Yeah, so but let me get what happened. I agree with you, right? But let me tell you what they did. So we can have a discussion on that, okay? But the parents could transfer $3 million per child, okay? And many of the R's were afraid that Obama was going to take that exemption away. So in 2012, the biggest transfer of wealth took place. Everyone got scared, and they started moving the $3 million to their kids. The way Obama got it was the way he got Obamacare through, he went to them and he said, I'm not going to take it away. I'm going to double it for you. Okay? So it went from 3 million to 6 million. So what ended up happening was, and by the way, what I'm sharing with you is from two board members of mine in a company I run. One's a big Trumper, big Republican, and the other guy's a liberal who's got BLM signs. But they both agreed this was a horse trade that actually screwed all of us. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So the exemption went up to 6 million, so you could transfer 6 million, and Obama got that through. So what is a fundamental result of that from a macro perspective? Big pharma, big hospitals, and by the way, if you look at the stock market, big pharma went up like that. After that, big insurance. So one group of the elites prospered, and another group of the elites prospered. And what do I mean by that? It's not about pro-tax or anti-tax. I think we'd all argue, we all believe we should pay a fair share of tax. There are certain public systems, we should keep going. People who take lots of risks probably shouldn't, in my view, shouldn't pay as many tax, right? But today we have $1.7 trillion of foundation wealth that is not taxed. Harvard doesn't pay a penny in tax. The Gates Foundation doesn't pay. And there are foundations which adds up to $1.7 trillion. So what's happening is the elites have figured out a way, because they have 50 lawyers, that they can take their billions and instead of paying any wealth, they create something called a foundation. They move the wealth into that foundation, and what they're really doing is, in a legal way, evading taxes. They move it into that foundation. That foundation doesn't have to pay taxes, and through that foundation, they can enforce policies. They're running a new government. When Bill Gates moves 50, 60, $100 billion into his foundations, he can say, here's my view on everyone should be forced vaccinated. I believe this is what should occur. So he's not even, and that 50 billion, or whatever 100 billion would have been taxed, it would have gone to the US federal budget. So he gets two big whammies. He doesn't pay taxes, actually three. He gets to act as though he's a big philanthropist. I'm helping the world. I'm helping these dark people in Africa and India. And he gets to drive public policy. So using that foundation, he moved money to the Clinton Foundation, he gave money to Gavi, and he's driving vaccine policy all over the world without any votes, without any democracy. Mark Zuckerberg's doing the same thing, Clinton Global Initiative. So even though I run businesses and I don't believe we should tax, but I believe those people should be taxed. I think Harvard University, by the way, in Massachusetts, now recently they paid a little bit of a tax, but they take all of they get grant funding from us, grant funding, then they get federal funding, and they use all of that money, and then they get funding from their tuition, and they put it into investments in what's called a hedge fund. They have a $50 billion hedge fund. When they make profit on that, they pay zero taxes. Zero. They're running as a Wall Street hedge fund. Meanwhile, in places where Richard lives, like Cambridge, they own 600 acres of Cambridge, property tax. They don't have to pay a penny in property tax. You pay property tax? I do. I pay every kind of tax. All of us do. That's right. Exactly. So all of us are paying all different kinds of taxes. They don't. So what I'm trying to say is, they do horse trading. In every bill, they do horse trading. That's what's actually going on. So each wings of the establishment is getting something, and what's happening to us is a decline of the working people's actual salaries. So I just want to make this very real. It's an attack on working people. That's what's fundamentally going on. And this campaign connected with people all over the state. And we came up bottoms up. And we were headed for a landslide victory. And what do they do when we come up? They can throw a switch and they can turn on a feature called a weighted race feature, which is in software. And I've been programming, as you know, since I was a kid. And in that software, your vote is not stored as an integer. it is stored as a decimal. First of all, this itself should be illegal. So if I got 1,000 votes, Michelle got 1,000 votes, our actual in the database, it's not stored as 1000, which is a whole number, right? Anyone here? 1, 2, 3. It's stored as 1000.1234566. It's a decimal. Exactly. For slaves, one vote was 3/5 of a vote. So they can flip a switch. There's a feature in the software, which Bev Harris, a woman who figured this out, was attacked for doing this. She figured out that the votes in the system is stored as decimals. So first of all, why is that? And it was created there. Excellent. Their excuse was, we created that feature for homeowners associations in 2001 because they wanted to use this software. Let's say all of us were in the same condo unit, and Michelle owned 1,000 square feet, Shannon owned 2,000 square feet, Richard owned 1,500 square feet, and we were all going to vote if we wanted to put in new carpeting. Well, Michelle's point was, I have to pay more condo fee, so she got 2 votes, right? Shannon got 1 vote, Richard got 1.5 votes. It's called fractional voting. Everyone get this?
Yep.
That feature was left in there for federal elections. So, when I look at the fact we won in Franklin County, hand counted, but on the machine counted votes, they can throw this feature on at the time of tabulation, because in machine counted, the votes are done not by a human being, they're done by the software. Where when you put in that paper, it doesn't go to a human being, it gets scanned by a machine, and in the DS200 machines, all documented, which is what we use east of 495 predominantly, okay, in some parts here, that image, that scanning gets converted, that your paper, into a digital ballot image. And it gets stored on that machine. Okay, it's getting stored. When the polls close, who is counting those digital images? The machine. It's scanning. It has some AI technology. It looks for a dot. 1 vote for Shiva, 1 vote for Michelle. It's counting those dots. Got it? And then it tabulates the election. But if that weighted race feature is turned on, for every 1 vote Michelle gets, let's say it gets multiplied by 3, and every vote I get, it halves it. Okay? So that's where you can flip an election within microseconds. The way that you would know is if 1,000 voters came in, you should have how many ballot images? 1,000. But if the number of votes is, let's say, 2,000, you know something's wrong. Someone got increased more, someone got reduced, etc. So that's why we did a FOIA. On September 9th, we asked for the ballot images. We said, show us the ballot images. 10 days later, after a lot of nonsense we had to go through it, 11 days later, which is they violated federal law. And in fact, I called them up and I'm sorry, they violated law. I said, hey, you guys are violating federal law. And the guy tells me on the phone, no, I'm violating Massachusetts law. That's what he says. So that's okay. And then, no, but I'm saying this is like a third world country. My dad used to talk about this. They don't care. They do whatever they want, right? This is Massachusetts. They have total arrogance. And then on September 24th, which is, 24th, Saturday, we get an email from Baker's Secretary of State office, a legal counsel, saying, we don't have to save the ballot images by Massachusetts law. But no, we don't have to, Massachusetts doesn't. So I said, please show me the law. Crickets, right? Then they say, we save the paper, but we don't save the images. Please show me the law. I said, you're violating federal law. The law actually states, in black and white, any record generated in the course of an election must be saved. That got created, right? That image gets created. All right? So by the way, so we're all learning how the system works now, right? We poked the bear. No one knew about this. You have a working kid like me getting back to you and telling you what's going on. It's good. This is all good. No one knew about this before. I didn't know about this. So this is how they cheat us. And they have the arrogance to tell us that Massachusetts can have its own laws, which is not true. Which means we can have murder in Massachusetts, but not at the federal level. So that's what took place. And when I took those emails and I put them up on Twitter, which is public data, she's a public official, within moments we found out that the Secretary of State talked to Twitter, ordered them to take down my Twitter account. So if Mike Pompeo, the U.S. Secretary of State, called up Twitter and said, please remove Joe Biden's account for 7 days, which is a long time when you have 30 days left, because he's putting up election misinformation, and Twitter complied, oh my God, we would see it every day, right? How could Twitter do this? And the fact that that happened shows that we've become a banana republic. And this is what happens in China. This is what happens in countries that have no freedom. And the reason they think they can do this is because they think the voice of the American worker is going to be silenced. And that's why we're doing this write-in, right? This is, like I said, an act of defiance. And this is what we need to do, because no one is going to watch out for us but us. That's where we're at. And that's why we need to let everyone know we're doing this write-in. We don't put our tail between our legs and run. We escalate. Because when we do our write-in, exactly, we got to escalate. Because when we do this write-in, they have to count these by hand, by law. That's why we're doing this. Because no one is going to fight for us but us. And anyone who says, you're going to split the vote with Doofus, you got to tell them, no, you're splitting the vote between the working people and those two numbskulls. That's the answer. They're all in it together. And you have to understand the politics so you could come at them voraciously, I mean, in a very hard way. That's what you need to tell them. Because all these little numbskull politicians who still bow down to the mass GOP, they're selling out working people because they want a position in government. We don't want a position. We want to win for one of us representing us. That's what this is about. And that's what scared them, that the Secretary of State had to call Twitter. That's what scared them, that to throw a switch. So we should all be proud of that. We should be proud that we put so much fear into them.
I'm proud.
So we should not take this as a defeat. We should take it as a big victory, that they're afraid of us coming together like this on a Sunday in a parking lot to hold a meeting like this. They don't do that. What do? They do backroom deals. Shannon knows this. Richard knows this. Some other people know. Pamela knows this. The whole forced vaccination movement, the medical freedom movement, has been overtaken by the likes of Robert Kennedy Jr., who's been misleading the entire movement. He doesn't want. Now they're starting to do protests, not because they want to do protests, but because they want to mislead people. And this has occurred in history before. So, and it's done by a lot of very wealthy people who this issue of forced vaccine is their little issue for them. It has nothing to do with a bottoms-up movement. So that's why our election, I think, is the tip of the spear of something that's pretty amazing. So every one of you here should be honored for yourself, because you're standing up. This is not about, exactly. Everyone here should be honored for what you're doing, because we're starting to relearn what American workers did in the 1800s and 1900s. We're learning how to fight. There's no one going to come from above and do this, guys. We have to do it. Seriously.
Amen.
There's no, we have to do it, and then God watches, and if you work hard, He's going to support you. But we have to do this. Yep.
After you win, how do we keep this going? So the common person.
Yeah. So the question is, after we win, how do we keep this going? The bottom line is, when we started this movement, the T-shirts say truth, freedom, and health. And the bottom line of this movement is to start creating what I want to do. I'm only going to do one term. Why? Because in those 6 years, I already have programs, but we want to educate young people in political theory. We need to renew a political movement, so all of us start running for these offices. For, again, one term, in and out, in and out, in and out, right?
Yeah!
That's what we need. That's the legacy that anyone should want to leave, not being in there like Markey for 47 years, right?
No, sir.
Not being the Kennedys, being a dynasty.
Woo! Yeah!
That's right. All right. So that's what we want to do, but it's a good question. We have to start asking, I talked yesterday, we come into this world naked, and then we leave with nothing. And you have to really take that you have to reflect on that. So what is it that you do between that very short period of what we call human life? The idea is to leave something better behind. Well, the idea to leave something better behind is ideas, right? A different way of thinking. So why not go for all of it? Why are we compromising our principles in even one iota? Because the more we demand of the richest values, it leaves better for our kids, right? The less we lower the more we compromise, it's sort of garbage rolls downhill, right? So you're going to get worse and worse and worse. So that's why we have to raise our standards, each one of us. And we should not let anyone say, oh, you're going to split the vote. Well, that's an idiot's talking. That's an adolescent political consciousness. No, you're taking away votes from us by voting for them. Okay? That's why we got to I'm telling you, we won this on a landslide. We got to win this by letting everyone know. And if you go around, you will see so many people said they voted for us. They voted for you. We never heard of this guy, right? You never heard of him? You never heard of him? No one heard of him here. That's what we just talked about. So he's an amazing marketing genius. It's a new form of marketing, invisible marketing, right? No one even know what he looks like, okay? That's why this is such an awesome opportunity for us. Because when we poke the bear of the establishment, we've exposed something so egregious that it's our responsibility to talk about this. Because they want us to say, oh, we lost. No, we didn't lose, we won. We won because we're doing a write-in campaign and we're exposing them. So you have to define victory on our battleground, not on theirs. Because if you go it on their ground, you're going to be doing, antidepressants all day. Okay? And that's what they want us to do. Then it suppresses your immune system and so on. So we have to define our victories based on our battleground. And that's how we keep inspiring ourselves. But to your point, this is a movement. And running for office with one of us in an honest way, in a principled way, exposes them. And that's what this country was supposed to be, on principle. So we walk the walk. We don't walk away, we write in. Okay, that's what we do. That's what we got to do. So what I need everyone to do is, now that everyone's hopefully inspired and excited and angry, we got each of those boxes got 5,000 of these. So everyone here has got to commit to at least committing to losing 10 pounds. Okay? And building 5 pounds of muscle, because that's what that 1,000, right, Ted? Ted knows that 1,000 of these cards. Ted's been on the weight loss program, increased muscle and everything, but we need everyone to do that. We need to plaster this place everywhere. One of our volunteers was putting this on Newbury Street, and the cards were on the ground, and some random guy said, I was on Newbury Street, I saw your card, and he came to our rally, and then he took 10,000 cards. So even if it goes on the ground, it's okay. Right? Don't worry about that. It's okay. Because someone will see it. And we need to be ubiquitous so everyone knows we're doing this write-in campaign. And we made it easy because we know we're all working people. Anyone can take this, put it on a car, give it to someone, and move. So we made it easy because we don't have time to be political hacks. We got to find efficient ways. So that's what we need people to do. Remember, this is about truth, freedom, and health. 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 That's what this is about. They attack our freedom, we redouble. They attack truth, we redouble. They attack our health, we redouble. We don't back away. That's what we need to do. Robin, do you want to say any last words?
I would just like to say...
Come on up here. Yeah. I don't know if people know, Robin is a foot
and ankle surgeon.
Foot and ankle surgeon from Maine. Okay, so here's someone from Maine who came all the way down here to support our campaign. So I just want to end with Dr. Frost saying a few words.
The applause are for all of you guys, the applause are for all of you guys. I am here simply amazed by the effort that you guys are putting in. So I will do anything and everything. I cannot vote here, but I can certainly pass out cards, and I can certainly be here to support, and I can certainly do phone calls. I'd like to see all of you. You have your vote. Let's get together. There's more of us than them, and I believe that we are way smarter than them, especially with Dr. Shiva.
That's right.
Senate.
That's right.
Let's get it done, guys. Let's get it done.
Thank you, Robin. So anyway, so everyone make sure, there's any other questions? We can take a Q&A. We're here, yep. Come on up.